But we're going to go live now to the White House in Washington, D.C., in the swamp, where we're in Richmond today. We're in Rich Vegas, not in D.C., thank goodness. We're out of the swamp. And we're going to go to Hogan Gidley, who was the Deputy Press Secretary for Sarah Sanders, and he is also the Deputy Communications Director for the President of the United States. Hogan Gidley, great to have you, sir.
It's great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, Hogan, I was on vacation last week, and we missed the Mueller report and didn't have a chance to talk about that. And, of course, the reaction from the Democrats, impeachment and subpoena cannons going off. What is the deal? What do they want to do now? Now they want to subpoena Robert Mueller. They want to subpoena Barr. They want to subpoena the president's financials. It goes on and on and on. What's their agenda? Do you have any idea?
Well, look, they wanted collusion with Russia to be true. They wanted it so badly. For 2+ years, they pushed this lie onto the American people with no proof, no evidence, and now, after an exhaustive investigation, the truth has set us free, and Donald Trump is free and clear. There's no collusion, no obstruction. It's a complete and total exoneration, and now they've collectively lost their minds because if they drop it now and don't continue to push forward on impeachment and other things, then they will have admitted that the last 2 years of their life was a complete and total waste. And here we are seeing so many people trying to be at the top of the Democrat ticket. You heard them last night on CNN saying impeachment is a must. We have to go after the president on impeachment here. But you're going after someone who hasn't done anything wrong, hasn't committed a crime. And it's ridiculous to watch them flail about and try and push more nonsense on the American people. I mean, they won't – look, they're ignoring completely what's going on the border with the facts and the data. They're ignoring completely what's going on with the facts and the data as it relates to Trump's exoneration. So, it wouldn't be surprising that they continue to double down on their losses and their lies, but that's where we are right now, and they continue to press on this issue that, no one – it is such a minuscule topic, too, as it relates to polling data showing the American people just don't care about it at all. But they're continuing to go down the road, so have at it. You can waste your time. You've already wasted so much of the American people's money on this, so how about you guys just waste some more time on it, and Donald Trump will keep winning in the meantime.
That might be it right there. It's just that they just keep doing what they're doing. They're getting nowhere with it. They have no agenda for America, which is what I keep calling for. Like, what exactly do they stand for other than give everything away free and destroy the healthcare system and turn it into I don't know what, which you're going to talk about that in a minute. Hogan, they're asking for...
Hold on one second. Well, here's what we do know that they want. They definitely want impeachment. They definitely want to make America socialist. They definitely want the Green New Deal that you just referenced that would destroy the economy. They definitely want infanticide, being able to decide whether a botched abortion, you can just kill a baby after it's born. They definitely want open borders. So those are things we definitely know they want, up to and including raising taxes. So let's just operate out of the fact that we actually do know so much of what they want, in addition to all the free stuff. But anything against where we are now in this country is trying to take us backwards into a time when we weren't as prosperous, when there weren't as many people working, when there weren't as many people bringing home a paycheck. So where they stand now is antithetical to America, and it's antithetical to the successes we've seen under this administration. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. I mean, look, and not only that, but now they want free college for all. We don't know who's going to pay for that. Some of them. They also want universal health care or Medicare for all, whatever you want to call it, basically destroying for all intents and purposes the greatest health care system in the world. They want to completely destroy that. 220 million people have private insurance. They're out. They all get thrown off it, and they wait in line for rationing. I mean, I guess if that's what your agenda is, I guess you have to talk about impeachment, right? You're actually better off, I guess.
Absolutely. And look, they ran on that. A lot of these folks said we're going to run to impeach. So, they're fulfilling a campaign promise. The problem is he's done nothing wrong criminally at all. So, again, I'm not exactly sure what their argument is because it is all over the place and it's not based in fact. It's based in desire and what they want to be the case as opposed to what actually is the case. And, we've heard repeatedly so often that, there is obstruction here. He wasn't exonerated. Well, listen, prosecutors don't exonerate. Prosecutors prosecute. But they only prosecute if they have evidence to do so. They didn't have the evidence to do it here. They were clear about that because the president did not obstruct. And building on that point, you can't obstruct if there is no crime. So the first pillar of this is the collusion conspiracy with a foreign power. And if that didn't exist, then you can't obstruct it. So it just logically makes a whole lot of sense. But I'll tell you what was so fascinating to me. You remember when the news came out there was no collusion. You would have thought the American media would be so relieved and happy that a sitting United States president was not colluding with a foreign power to upset our elections. Instead, it was almost as though they were angry upon hearing the news that he hadn't done anything illegal, he hadn't colluded with a foreign power. That made them upset. So it's really odd to see where they are, that they wanted a president of the United States to be guilty of collusion.
It's an incredible 2 weeks that we had in watching the media melt down in sorrow and tears over the fact that the president was not found to be, what did they call him, a Russian asset. I mean, this is how silly this thing has got to. I mean, it went from, you had a meeting in Trump Tower to the Russians had an asset in the White House, kind of like how was that old movie that was done? It just slipped my mind. The Manchurian Candidate. Now let's get to Hogan. We're with Hogan Gidley, Deputy Press Secretary to the President, live in the White House. Let's get to this Medicare for All plan, which is now becoming theater of the absurd. We've now got Bernie Sanders calling this thing. I mean, it's almost like you're going to Ripley's Believe It or Not with this. He's got a $32 trillion price tag over 10 years in order to just get there, while he's outlawing private insurance, which would throw 220 million people off of insurance and put them in a rationing line. How do you sell this?
Well, here's what's so funny. I don't know how he sells it. That's a great question. But this is kind of where, and this may be a little clunky, but just follow me for a second if you can.
Yep.
Let's say right now the government takes money out of your right pocket and your left pocket. Your right pocket is for taxes. Your left pocket is for health care. Bernie Sanders says, okay, we're not going to take any more money out of your left pocket. And you go, great, I guess I get free health care. And he goes, yeah, it's free. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to take more money out of your right pocket. And he's like, but health care is free. And you're like, wait a minute, you're taking more money, so it's not free. I'm still paying for it out of my right pocket. And he's like, are you listening? You don't have to pay when you go to the doctor. But I did pay because you took more money out of my right pocket. He's like, no, you don't understand. You just don't get my plan. He's literally taking more money out of your paycheck and out of your pocket and then claiming that everything he's doing is free, when in actuality you are paying for it. And he had to admit this in that incredible Fox roundtable or discussion, whatever he had, when he said, if you think we're going to raise taxes, sure, we are. Now, the ridiculous logic, as I just pointed out, was, but don't worry, you're not going to pay anything for health care, no deductible, no copay, right? But we did pay for it. We paid for it because you took more money from somewhere else out of our pockets. And this kind of, weird logic that's so illogical is what they're trying to run on, that they want to kick 180 million people off of their private insurance, make it illegal for you to get private insurance, and to go only with a complete socialist government takeover of health care. Now, I'm not exactly sure how you sell the American people on health care via the DMV system. I mean, if you love the DMV, you're going to love Bernie Care. But, adding more bureaucracy, one more layer, 5 more layers between you and your doctor and your family is a horrible decision. But that's what he's running on, and most of the Democrats agree. So that'll be something that fights out, obviously, in the coming weeks and months and years.
Hogan, you bring up a really good point, because actually this free Medicare for all or free health care for all, you're actually going to be paying more. If you're in a private insurance today, the money that is going to be extracted from your paycheck is actually more, according to this study, more than you're paying for your insurance now. So actually you're going to pay more to get rationed. I mean, this is insane. So if you're
right, and how many best and brightest out there are saying to themselves, all right, I want to incur hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to become a doctor, only to have the government tell me it's going to take you an entire lifetime to pay that back because we're only going to pay for a fraction of the cost it takes to care for the American people. Now, what student in their right mind would go into medicine? If you're the best and brightest in your class and you have a God-given gift to take care of people and learn medicine and learn about the human body and learn about surgeries and cancer therapies and treatments, why would you go into an industry that is going to absolutely handcuff your ability to make a living, to charge what it actually costs to do your job? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Let's get to the border crisis. Republicans leaving the border yesterday, this was all over the news, in shock over the fact that they're now finding out that children are being recycled. Can you believe this? Like, you come over the border with a child and you can't be kept, so you catch and release. Then they smuggle the child back over the border the other way. Then they come back with another group of people, and then they bring it back. So they recycle the children like, I don't know what you would call that, like rag dolls. They just throw them back and forth over the border in order to scam the system. And nobody's doing anything about it.
This is nothing new. We've already caught a couple of rings and broken them up in New York and other places where this is happening. And drug smugglers and human traffickers and people who traffic in children as well, their thought process, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They continually use children to get people into this country illegally, to smuggle drugs into this country, to do all types of horrible things. And even CNN, you'll remember, was down on the border when Chris Cuomo was interviewing that gentleman, and he said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "I'm here for a job." Again, not our responsibility, but I understand you want a better life. But there's a system to go through that's legal. It's a legal process for you to get, the ability to stay. And he said, "Look, I'm here for a job, but if I need to say I need asylum, I'll do that as long as I can stay." And Chris Cuomo said, "Well, why do you have your son with you? Why did you bring him on this dangerous journey?" And the person admitted, who was here illegally, "Well, I know if I bring my child, then I'll be in for sure." Mm-hmm. I mean, they know what's going on here. They know how to scam the system, and Democrats won't lift a finger to help it. They don't lift a finger to solve it. And we've seen unprecedented numbers now pouring across our southern border. Remember when Donald Trump was in the Oval Office and gave his first address to the nation from that sacred room? He also went to the podium in the White House briefing room for the first time, and both topics he addressed, the singular topic, was immigration. And remember, after the Oval Office one, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer went on and used the term manufactured crisis 3 times. None of this is happening. This is all fake. And now we see towns along the southern border, like Yuma, for example, whose mayor declared a state of emergency in that city because they are getting an influx of people that they can't take care of because no one's leaving. So we're absolutely putting the same group of people as we have to release them by law in the same southern border towns. Now, how is that fair when there are cities across this country who profess to want every illegal alien to relocate into their community? They are offering, quote-unquote, sanctuary. These are sanctuary cities from coast to coast. The Democrats swear by. Then they should be working with this administration and this White House to try and figure out the best ways for us to transport all of these people that we keep letting out at the southern border into the towns that profess to want them there.
So when the president proposed that, a lot of people thought it was tongue-in-cheek, but now we understand that there's serious discussions in the White House about doing that. And the Democrats, went ballistic over it. But if they want to, if you're mayor or you're in a state and you want to be a sanctuary city, and you think that's a good thing, which means if you're an illegal alien, you can come to the city, come to the state, come to whatever sanctuary, and they will not turn you over to ICE, so you can stay there. Why wouldn't you want the illegals to come to your city? What's that
right.
about?
It's not quote unquote political retribution, as Nancy Pelosi said. It's not cruel. It's not inhumane. how is it cruel or inhumane to give you what you wanted? How is it cruel or inhumane to take these people who are here illegally and unlawfully and put them in your towns when you said you wanted them? In fact, they went a step further. Anyone who doesn't want them is racist. Anyone who doesn't want them is hate-filled. So let me get this straight. If we want to put them into your communities, that's wrong. If we want to send them back home, that's wrong. I don't understand the logic here. You either want them in your communities or you don't. And right now, we've seen no Democrats come over to the White House and say, hey, great idea. This is exactly what we've been saying we wanted for the last 2 years. How do we work with you guys to make sure it happens and we get them into our communities? They're blowing it off as a fictitious fake idea, and it's not. It's exactly what you asked for. You should view this as an olive branch that the administration is trying to work with you to deliver on exactly what you want.
Hogan, where do we go from here with this?
Well, I hope we go with some of the folks who won in these Trump districts in the House by very narrow margins, by a couple of points, who pledged to work with this president on things like infrastructure, on health care, on immigration. And we can get to those people and say, guys, you won in some narrow districts here on some of the, finding solutions to some of these problems. We want to work with you to get the American people safe, to get a logical, rational immigration system put into this country, and hopefully that's where it goes. Right now, I don't see any sign of that. But listen, it's spring; all things are new and blooming and budding, and hopefully we'll have some good relationships bloom and bud as well that we can work together on in the new year to try and get some of these things accomplished for the American people.
Is the president going to go to Congress? Because the only way he's going to do this is legislatively, and everybody knows to get this border crisis solved, there's going to have to be a bipartisan legislative initiative through Congress that says, look, unless you want open borders, and we have to fix this. Is the president going to go to Congress, bring in some of the Democrats, not Pelosi and not Schumer, because they don't want anything done, and maybe some of the moderates, if there are any, and try to craft a fix to this legislatively?
Well, look, the Problem Solvers Caucus came over here during the shutdown and tried to work with us. Some Democrats were included in there, and we hope that spirit continues to the new year. I don't want to get ahead of what the president may or may not do, but right now he's just trying to make the American people see what Democrats refuse to believe, and that is their own lying eyes. When you see people pouring across the border in the dead of night, you see buses pulling up and dropping off hundreds of people at a time, record-setting number of people coming across in 1 month. Large groups are massive now. We're getting hundreds of those where we used to only see a handful of groups of more than 100. So hopefully they're going to have to recognize there's a problem at all, and so many of them still don't believe there's an issue at the southern border, and that's really kind of at the crux of it. Either they don't believe or they don't care. Those are really the only two options.
Well, they don't care. I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious if you look at everything, Hogan. They don't care. They want an open border system so they can get cheap votes, and unfortunately, we got a lot of people in the Republican Party on the other side that has gotten a lot of money from Wall Street for cheap labor. They're dependent on open borders, and therein lies the unholy alliance that this president has been exposing since he's come down that escalator. Hogan Gidley, I'm out of time. Thank you for being with us live at the White House. Hogan Gidley, Deputy Press Secretary to the President of the United States. Hogan, always great to have you on, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Anytime. Have a great day.